Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Andrew Reinartz. I'm the Community Development Director with Arts South Dakota. And we're so excited to have you with us for today's session. We normally would be in Pierre today, getting ready for the Governor's Awards and doing some professional development together in Pierre. But we're so thrilled that we could still be together. I know we've long joked that we've been trying to get out of the Ramkota lobby for the Governor's Awards, and apparently this is about as far away from the Ramkota lobby as we can get with everybody remotely viewing. And Jim Spears, our executive director, will fill you in just a little bit more about the tonight's Governor's Awards in the arts. But today I wanted to thank you all for joining us for this really exciting session with Lori Jacobwith called "Expand Your Reach and Engage Your Board." We need to quickly start by thanking our sponsoring partners. We couldn't do this without the support of the South Dakota Arts Council, the Bush Foundation, and the National Endowment for the Arts. They've all been incredibly supportive of these professional development opportunities. Later on, once the session gets started, just wanted to give you a quick reminder of the question and answer process. If you can, please use the chat function for asking some technical questions if you're having any issues with sound or video, or for chatting with the other attendees. And then please use the Q&A function to ask questions of Lori. There will be some time for questions throughout, and we will make sure that all of your questions get addressed at some point during the course of the session. So now I'm going to turn it over to our executive director, Jim Spears, to say a couple of words.
Thanks, Andrew, and welcome everyone. It is so good to have you with us. And this is the first time in the last, I believe, 5 years that I haven't been in Pierre this week during February. We miss seeing everyone there. I want to be sure you all know that it's Arts Advocacy Day, and we are still doing that work, even though we're not in Pierre. Both the House and Senate are going to hear announcements stating that it's Arts Advocacy Day. We're going to provide special information in the form of a information packet or folder to all of the legislators today. And then we've invited all the legislators to join us this evening for the kind of the main reason we all come together, and that's the Governor's Awards in the Arts, 2021 Governor's Awards in the Arts, the 25th edition, almost 50 years now of this awards ceremony. And on behalf of the Arts South Dakota team and board, and then also our partners at the South Dakota Arts Council, we invite you to join us tonight at 5 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Mountain, to watch our pre-recorded, pre-produced presentation that is replacing the typical biennial banquet. We can't wait to premiere this piece honoring John Lopez, the Pattendale Larson family, John Banashik, the Brookings Arts Council, Cloud Horse Art Institute. Those are our recipients this year, and we will honor them with a ceremony tonight at 5 o'clock. And you can watch that by just going to our website, artsouthdakota.org. And you can click right there on a link. They'll take you to YouTube, or you can, I think, catch it on Facebook as well. And two more quick things before I turn it over to Lori. Also, continue to watch our website. There's ongoing developments in regards to federal stimulus and relief funding. We continue to monitor the new programs through the SBA, the Paycheck Protection Program, and then this newest program, the SVO program, that is helping with those performance venues, the shuttered venue operators that have really had a tough go of it over the last year. There's new information on that program just released within the last couple of days, so you can find that on our website, and I encourage you to check that out. And then last, I just want to take this opportunity to thank all of our member organizations. We have numerous organizations throughout the state that each year sign up for a membership, and it just makes our advocacy work, our voice, that much bigger. and stronger when we go to Pierre, or when we go to Washington, D.C., or to any of your communities. When you look at Art South Dakota's information, you're going to see not only that the message is coming from Art South Dakota, but it's coming from dozens and dozens of arts organizations across the state. And that's what makes it powerful. So thank you for that support. And I am so glad we can be here on this computer screen, our new reality for this last year, but still coming together as a community. And thank you for that. And I'll turn it over to Lori.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for the warm, really needing to be warm, right? The weather is a little chilly. Warm welcome. Thank you for all you guys do. I'm not sure there's anyone else out there in the world like you all. I come across a lot of arts organizations, a lot of arts councils, a lot of statewide arts boards, and you guys are pretty special. And so thank you. Thanks for having me back. We're going to talk about board members today. And if you're a board member, thank you for being with us. And just a reminder who our hosts are, and that this couldn't happen without Andrew there at the tech control, and Jim and team. There's lots of folks that make sure that today happens. Your work, however, is probably the most important thing we'll talk about today. What is it that you do to cause yourselves to have a great board, whether you are a staff person or a board member? And then what do you do to make your community more vibrant, special, connected, and all the things that happen because arts exist in your community? And I get that there are some non-arts organizations on, but I have a feeling, just looking at the list, there's arts programs at your organization. So we're going to use the question and answer box. Remember, the chat box is for Andrew. If you've got anything that you want me to know, go to the question and answer box. And I've got one quick question for you. You get one word to describe your board. And now is when to tell the truth, the good, the bad, or the ugly, but you only get one word. So it could be they are passionate, engaged, disengaged. I don't care what word it is, but go ahead and type them in. And while you are typing them in, I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I have been, a member of the nonprofit sector for a really long time, hence the gray hair. I have started out wanting to help people when I was a youngster. And so I thought I might be governor of Minnesota. And then I got to work for the governor of Minnesota when I was in my 30s, and I realized I didn't want that job. I also knew that I liked to travel. And so I made sure to do work that brought me places. Now, the last year, I've been grounded, like all of you. But that doesn't mean I haven't had my share of travel experiences. I've been a board member, executive director, CEO of Prevent Blindness in the Phoenix area. I lived in Phoenix for about 5 years, been development director, and currently I am the COO, the Chief Operating Officer at an organization called the Monroe Institute in Faber, Virginia. And we've got some issues with our board, probably just like you all do. Let's share a couple of words here. We've got words like non-functional, so there's a hyphenated word, diverse, supportive, vibrant, green, dedicated, waiting, rebirth, tired, eager, dedicated. I know there are more of you on, so go ahead and chat in. What is one word that you would use to describe your current board? You only get one on purpose. I really want you to think long and hard about the overall functionality of your board and those personalities. And some of you, we wish we could trade. I like the eager and the dedicated. Let's keep moving though, and I'll tell you what I have for you today. So we're going to talk about what are the duties for board members? What are the things that we have to be doing? And this is a reminder for some of you that I've seen on web sessions like this before, what is the one thing that brings about nonprofit success? How can we support fund development as board members if we don't want to ask people for money? How do we share expectations with our board and get them ready to really do what we need them to do? I'll touch on visual displays and dashboards. I'm big on a picture tells 1,000 words. And then I've got a quick pop quiz for you. It's not very hard. And then some wrap up questions and thoughts for you. Let's see, we've had a couple more people weigh in. Exhausted, new, varied, rebuilding. All right. So if you are a board member, just type in yes into the question and answer area so that I just know how many board members we've got with us today. And I'm going to dive in and talk a little bit about the work of board members. So the question that I have for you is, what are the most important skills for your board members to have? You can use more than one word in this answer. Go ahead and type in. It looks like we've got a few board members on. Welcome. Oh gosh, quite a few. Love it. What are the most important skills? Let's chat those into the question box for me. I'd like to see as many as possible. There can be duplications from what other people are saying. The good news is there are lots. There are the soft skills, there are the hard skills, there are the, personality skills. What are the things that you all would say are the most important? Authenticity, kindness, commitment, dedication, enthusiasm. I believe that some of it is knowing their job, knowing the difference between governance and what are really management issues. And that's an issue we have with our board right now. They're still learning about that, even though the organization has been around for about 40 years. Let's see if there's any others. Mission-driven, engagement, listen, laugh, organize, do. Love that, Terry. Yeah. If it's not fun, why are we doing this? Communication, empathy, varied opinions, willing to work hard, being engaged and willing to learn. Yeah. Making their board position a priority. There are other things all board members do usually, but having this be something that they show up to and they're living the promise that they made. Willingness, using their voice, advocacy, advisory, action. Ooh, love that. And your title is anonymous attendee. So there's a lot of A's in your answer there, the triple A's and then the two more. All right, so let's answer this question again. What are the most important skills that you as a staff, if you're a staff member, have to support your board? Type those in if you would. What are the most important skills staff should have to support the board? And these might be some of the same. They might be some different ones. The most important thing is that we're all in this together, right? And we're looking to make our organization strong. Willing to add value. I'm not sure if that's a board one. Just in general, understanding the difference between a working and advisory board. Again, that's a board one. Communicative, encouraging, creative, patience. Staff needs to be patient, that's for sure. Clarity, resourcefulness, good communication, initiative, follow through, honesty, communication, listening, organized, empowering, organized. Organized is probably my top thing that we have to be as staff in providing details and providing timely follow-up. I have a lot to say about what our job is, both as a board member and as staff, supporting a powerful and hopefully engaging and successful board. I won't be asking questions on every slide, but I've got a few. So this is the last one for a moment here. What are your biggest board challenges? And I will not say names. I'm just going to read off a couple, but let me know what is there today that you wish wasn't an issue? And I'll tell you, for us, as I said, I mentioned a couple minutes ago, it really is understanding the difference between governance and what management and staff leadership's function is. We just don't have that yet on this board. And so we get into the weeds too often, and that makes it hard to make decisions. All right, let's see. Making sure the staff and board understand each other. Got that? Diversity, time. Keeping people connected when we can't meet. Yes. Time. Direction. Some not engaged and adding value. Maybe yet, or it may be time to move them on. Filling open board seats, okay? Finances, engagement of stakeholders, not having staff. We're all volunteers. So who does what and how do we support each other? Keeping board members engaged, a lot of engagement. Well, good thing I put the word engagement in the title because that's what we're going to talk about today. Diversity, dedication, understanding of the roles of what needs to be accomplished. So we've got some challenges on our plate. Well, in just a moment here, I'm going to read a long list to you. And this list comes from BoardSource. The intention of reading it to you is to have it feel a little overwhelming and to cause you to think about how do we get our board ready and ourselves ready to make sure that all of this work gets done. So these are the basic duties and responsibilities. Here I go. Ensure you're fulfilling your mission and purpose. Engage in strategic thinking and planning. Approve and monitor the work of your organization or foundation or council. Ensure adequate financial resources. Ensure sound risk management. And provide effective financial oversight. Next is select and support the chief executive, the CEO, the board president, or the staff president, whatever it is, and review their performance annually. Enhance the organization's public image with how they show up and how they talk about you. Carefully select and orient new board members and board leaders. Maintain a board structure with committees and overseeing operations. And then the final one is really organizing and participating on those committees so that we're effective with our time. Now, here's the question. That was a lot. That's a lot to know when I come on to a board. And if I haven't been a board member on a good, effective, successful board, I may not know how to do all of those things. So what is the training that you provide at your organization for a new board member? It might be a simple board orientation, one meeting. You might have a 3-ring binder. You might have a board portal on your website. You might have ongoing training at staff meetings. Would you go ahead and type in to the question and answer box, what is it that you do to make certain that your board is continually learning about their role and their effectiveness? Let's see, I'm waiting for some type-ins here, but McGrory had a good comment that one of the challenges is, just who should we be? Who are we? Another is limited understanding of our work. Yeah, got it. Monthly meetings. So there's some training going on through monthly meetings, board drive, and directions to the deep end of the pool. Okay, not enough. Hey, Rebecca, good to see your name there. Other training that you provide, even if it doesn't feel like a training, it might be just defining a term at a board meeting. It might be having me hear a story from one of your programs. Board orientation packet, good. Detailed board orientation, board mentorship, longer officer transitions instead of a handoff. That's great. Well, Elizabeth, we all want to be you. Board orientation is one meeting, encouragement of active role in committees to deepen our engagement. Orientation call, handbook, regular reports on programs and partnerships, help with technology as we have heavily invested in the Google Suite. Okay, good. Well, so for those of us who don't do some of that training, for those of us who said unengaged or time showing up, we're just not having our board be all that we know it can be, I have a couple of thoughts for you. What if some of your board members actually don't know what it is they should be doing. They've never served on a board before, or if they have, that board wasn't a well-functioning board. What if they do know what they're supposed to be doing, and it's only about fiduciary oversight and paying attention to those financials? That's all they want to do. It's kind of our board right now. They're forgetting some of the larger issues of strategic planning and strategic looking into the future, and how do we stay open when there's a pandemic? Or what if they really do want to be stretched and they don't want to tell you because that idea scares them? And the reason that they tune out and they aren't engaged is because they're actually bored. Different spelling of the word bored. Bored meaning they're not challenged, or they don't know enough about what we need as an organization, or they haven't visited or participated in the program, so they just don't know. We have just added 8 staff over the last 6 weeks here at this organization. We are making sure that each person gets some sort of deep orientation. And what I've realized is we don't do the same with our board when we have new board members show up. What people want in general, and board members specifically, is they want to be noticed. You know, they actually want you to notice when they don't show up and have someone call or email or follow up and say, hey, here's what you missed. They want to be liked. You know, they want to feel like they're part of the group. They want to be inspired, and they want you to do some of what they say. We can't always do all of it, right? But to have a good, solid, healthy conversation about what it is that I say, and to have some discussion around what we can and can't do, makes for a good, strong, successful board. The last is, miss me if I'm gone. So yesterday, our president and CEO of our organization called our outgoing chair, who rolled off the board after 6 years in December. He called Frank yesterday and asked him if he'd consider being a part of our campaign, our special fundraising campaign, and co-chair that with another person. I've already identified a woman co-chair for him. He was thrilled. He was one of our best board members, and we were missing him already after 1 month. But he said, you know, give me a day or two, but I think I can make that work. So think about, what do people want versus what are we taking the time to do to keep them engaged and or just to keep them updated? And the kind of communication that has them feel, and all of us feel like it's of value. The communication is something we want to repeat. We want to share with others. It includes listening. So we may or may not want to hear all of the opinions, but we should be listening to them. So what is the avenue that we do that? The communication is personal. You know, even if you're sending out board minutes afterwards, rather than just saying, dear all, having that say something so that it does feel personal. Now, thank you to the 7 of you who attended the board meeting last night or last week. And here are the notes for the 3 of you that did not. So you still don't have to type in all their names, but it's personal. It feels like it anyway. Provides meaningful feedback both ways. So we have to model the kind of behavior as staff and or the leadership, the volunteer leadership that we want from the entire board. And so in some organizations, we don't call people out when they miss meetings, but you would call out staff if they missed a meeting. You would ask an artist why they didn't show up at that, you know, gallery opening that you were holding for them. So make sure that we're saying all of the important things that need to be said. Doesn't have to be mean or rude, but it's clear. And it has me understand that there's some accountability here. And then the last is, and this is really important for us as staff or the board leadership, provide information and messages that inspire action. That means we have to be sharing tools. We have to be sharing stories about what happened recently, or if you're an all-volunteer organization, we have to decide who is assigned to what project, program, showing, opening, greeting of the guests, even if it's on Zoom. You might assign to someone to be the chat greeter on Zoom to welcome all of the people if you're doing some of your work and performances virtually right now. So I'm going to share a bunch of tools. Please don't let these blow your hair back and overwhelm you. You would not want to incorporate all these tools at one time. You're going to want to think about which ones will work best for you. You might want to bring a list of some ideas to future board discussions. I always say pick one tool at a time and then do that well, and then add another tool and another tool. You're going to want to do a whole bunch of them at a time, but it's a recipe for overwhelm, fatigue, and disaster. So don't go there. And we already have enough fatigue in our world right now. So everyone wants to know what the secret is to an engaged board. I say the secret to anything, any good relationship, and some of you know that I say this regularly, is just one thing. It is, what do we say? How do we say it? Who is saying it? Where and when is it being said? It's all about communication. If the notes from a board meeting go out 2 weeks after the board meeting, no one remembers the importance of them. Speed in our communication matters. If we have a bunch of different opinions and not everybody's opinion is captured or allowed to be heard, that becomes a problem or a barrier to engagement. How do we communicate? We have folks that work in this organization who've been here for almost 30 years. There wasn't a Google Suite in 30 years ago. And so the changes that some of us are implementing are sort of knocking people sideways. So we have to stop and work with a couple of our board members, a couple of our longtime staff, and really thinking about how are we communicating what is most important right now? What is relevant about your mission right now? You're needed more than you ever have been before in your communities. You are part of the respite, the fun, the joy in our lives, and especially at a time when there is very little of that, or certainly less options for that than we've had in a long time. Clear communication means we show up at this time. Here's the link to log in. We will start promptly and honor that. Begin and end on time with your meetings or whatever functions you're holding. But also shout out to people. If a board member does something really wonderful or a staff person does something really wonderful, have there be a form of communication that gets people excited. I like to do bell ringing moments. I've got a little bell on my desk here, but I do a bell ringing update each Friday for some of the good news that happened. And those go to the board as well. So there's something they want to share with other people. And it could be as small as the copier got, fixed, or everybody's Wi-Fi is working this week. Or it could be that a grant came in, or we had the best board meeting we've ever had, or the performance is sold out, the virtual performance. In recruiting and onboarding board members, communication is important for everyone, but it's especially important for new board members. So for board members in general, would you go ahead and type into our question box for me, when does quality communication with a board member begin? When do you think that it begins? When is the timing of that in the process of becoming a board member? There may be some various opinions here, but I've got my own. I'll share with you in a moment. What is the best timing for quality communication to kick in with a board member or a board candidate? before they join the board. All right, Phyllis gets the bell ringing moment. That is spot on. Well before I join the board, we have to have clear communication that's engaging and timely. So in that identifying and recruitment process, knowing who we're looking for, being clear about what our process is, and then making sure that our follow-up is thorough, efficient, timely. You know, one of the things that can happen is you meet someone and you think, oh, they could be a really great board member. I've done this as well. And yet I haven't gone through and done the homework to figure out if that would be really, truly a good board fit. So our job as board members is to take a pause with the help of staff leadership, if we have staff, and know what we're looking for. I'm going to give you a tool to do that in a moment. And then set expectations early in the process, in the interview process, and well before someone comes to a board meeting to check you out, you want to know that you've got some tools in place. So I'm going to share a bunch of tools. They come from this ebook called Mission Possible, your workbook for a successful board. It is a whole bunch of PDFs that are downloadable. The whole ebook is downloadable, a free resource. Pick and choose which one you like. The first one, though, that's in this ebook is a board composition matrix. So on the left there, you would list the names of your board members. And then across the top, you might change the categories based on your organization, but the qualities that you seek, you would want to know what sort of constituency or affiliation. Do we want someone who is an artist? Do we want to have someone from the real estate community? What are their skills and expertise? You know, I might be a fabulous painter, but I also might be a great public speaker. And I could be a part of, you know, the speaker's bureau if we have one. Demographics, really key as we're building more diverse and consciously building more diverse organizations, age range, fundraising prowess, add it to the matrix, ask the question, have you asked for gifts? How much, how many, what do you like about that? What do you not like about that? And then of course, geographically, where are people located? Before you use a matrix like this with your board, the thing that I like to see happen is that we ask two really important questions. First is, what are the three most important things for our board to accomplish this year? Not our staff, not the organization as a whole, but our board. And it might be to provide a framework for how we grow during a time when we can't meet in person, strategically think through what our options are. And then, you know, once we decide what those three important things are, and that's a board discussion with staff, if you have staff, the second question is, do we have the right people on the board to make that happen? So we're going to embark on a $13 million capital campaign. And I can tell you that the answer to both these questions are the board's, one of the most important things the board would accomplish is to have 100% board giving this year for both unrestricted operating and the capital campaign. I'm not sure that'll happen, and I'm not sure we have the right people on the board to help make it happen. So we're going to plow forward, but we have some work to do to get our board up to speed and ready. Have an application. Make sure that as a volunteer leader, I am able to, no kidding, fill in some information for you to know who I am and what it is that I have to give as gifts and talents to the organization. I like to make sure that we ask relevant experience. It's fine if you've got half your board is new. That just means now you have to plan a little bit of time in each board meeting to make sure to teach. And it doesn't even have to feel like teaching, but to have me know what my job is. And then if I have previous experience, list it. And what are my, you know, what is my current skills? Let me go back for a second. What are my current skills and or time constraints Both important things to know. If someone has current volunteer roles that fill two sides of a piece of paper, they're not your person. Even if everyone wants them because they're on all the boards, they're not going to make you a priority. I prefer if someone serves on one or two positions, volunteer positions at the most, unless they are a really engaged, effective, organized volunteer. Then once they fill out their application, you've met with them, you've decided this is a great fit, and they are able to be one of the people to help you do those top three things. Orienting your board members with a repeatable, engaging format is one of the key things that will allow you to have a jump start for your board members to feel like they're able to make a difference right away. You don't necessarily want it to feel like, oh gosh, I have to wait a year and go through all the board meetings to know what's supposed to happen when. So I've given a lot of thought to, and I've worked with thousands of organizations literally in crafting this next worksheet. It is a board orientation checklist. So we want to know what their preferred time and method of contact is. For our board, it's a small board. We've got 7 board members. Some of them like text, some of them like email, and some of them like phone. And it is on us as staff to honor that. Knowing all their phone numbers, even if we're only going to use one. Have them be able to describe the organization in 3 sentences. We are, they fill in the blank. We specialize in serving or supporting, and we help people do what? Work with them to have their 3-sentence introduction. And then have a board orientation that I like to have run by the board president, a volunteer, not staff. And that is a special meeting separate from a regular board meeting. It could be just before, just after. It's held in a location where maybe some of your performances happen. If you can do a socially distanced type meeting, or if one person can even be on site and you can show me around. It includes a board buddy. I get assigned someone who's been on the board a little bit longer than I have to help answer some questions, and then ongoing contact with my board buddies so that I don't feel lost, because there's sometimes questions I will not ask out loud in a board meeting, but I would ask to my board buddy. And then on the second page of this worksheet is what happens at that first meeting, what goes in the orientation packet, what can go into a later meeting, what can be on that first call with the board buddy, and then what is some ongoing communication. If you take these 2 pages and implement just them, you will have some really rich, meaningful conversation as a staff and a board around what have we been doing that's effective? What are we needing to do that could be more effective? And where are we missing the boat and not providing information because we don't have it collected yet, or we don't have it gathered in a way that's easy to access? Then the other thing that I like to have happen is once a year, the board signs what I call a board agreement. There are a couple of versions I've got for you. One is a very professional one. It's 2-sided. It says, I recognize our organization's ability to change lives is fueled by our success in raising funds in support of our programs and operations. Likewise, as a community volunteer in a leadership role, I acknowledge a personal responsibility to contribute to the causes I support. The assistance I provide may take various forms. Regardless of their nature, my contributions will be personally significant. So notice the language there. And then this board agreement identifies 3 areas that they are agreeing to make a financial contribution, serve as a table host, actively participate at a board meeting. And then on the second page, let's not do that, Lori. Let's go back to where we were. There we go. On the second page is all the areas where I could be volunteering. I could provide some time making calls. I could write an article. I can attend events. But we're making sure that we give some options, and we have explained on the front side that I have to choose at least 4 from the second side as places that I will give my time. So that one's a bit formal. The second one is a lot more fun. And this is a menu. We like to eat. So this has appetizers, entrees, and desserts. And it's very simple. This is an all-you-can-eat menu. Please choose as many items as you like, but at least one per category. A monthly update will be provided at board and committee meetings based on your input. So they have to report on how they're doing towards the things they said they do. Now, in the entrees area, it already says make a financial gift that's significant to me. And that isn't negotiable, but I can add something else in the entrees area. So this one is fun, play with it. It's simple. You can make thank you calls. You can share e-news with friends, but it really does start to put a framework around board engagement. The next tool is a self-assessment tool. And the self-assessment tool that I use has, oh gosh, I think it's, I don't know, 10 or 12 questions on it. The thing about it is you can find all kinds of examples all over the internet, but you want the board to think about our own role and how we're doing with attendance, making sure we understand what our programs are, and putting some of that responsibility on ourselves and not expecting, to show up and have it all come at us. I've worked with a number of organizations, and part of the orientation process, we talked about the fact that it is our job as a board member to find one area that we want to learn more about and come back and present for 2 minutes at a future board meeting about what we learned. So we have to meet someone, an artist, we have to meet, a volunteer in that area, whatever it is, and then we talk about that. So we own our own orientation in a little bit of an important way. The thing that I like to remind us is if we are in agreement as volunteer leadership and staff, if we have them, around our core values, then everything else sort of falls into place. If we haven't had a conversation at least once a year about what our core values are, we sort of do that thing of the same and same and same over and over again and expect different results. So even in this organization that I'm working at now, been around for 40 years, we just did an internal values exercise right around Thanksgiving, and re-clarified and reclaimed what some of our internal values are. And, respect, curiosity, service of each other. Then we bring that up and identify where we saw someone espouse or embody those core values, both at board meetings and staff meetings. It's changing our conversation. It's changing, gossip isn't so rampant. Finger pointing is changing a little bit. So just know that one of the ways to cause a new path to happen is to remember to talk about what your core values as an organization are. All right, so how are we doing on questions here? Everybody's okay. It doesn't look like we've got anything burning. So I'm going to tell you a couple of phrases or a couple of definitions. Some of you have heard these before. These are important definitions that I like to make sure we agree on to set the foundation. And then we're going to talk a bit about some of the ways board members can support fund development and not have to ask for money, but still affect the bottom line and feel pretty great about what they're doing. All right, so my mouse went away. It's way up there. Oh, so for just a moment, Andrew, I'm going to have you unshare my screen so that my little mouse can come back to me. Thank you for being willing to do that. So when I don't have a way to, I see what I'll do. Okay, so talk amongst yourselves for a second while I re-plug in. There we go. And I have my mouse back where it needs to be. And I will share. my all-important screen here. While we are waiting and typing in, let me go ahead and ask you to answer this question. How many of you have had board members stay on your board longer than the term that they were supposed to? Like no one made sure that the term limits were being enforced. Go ahead and share that with me in the Q&A box. Yes, we have had people stick around longer than they're supposed to, or no, we always follow our term limits. All right, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. We're back. Doesn't look like anybody. Yes, okay. No limits at all. Uh-oh, and we have to do some work. Oh, can be reappointed continuously. Ugh. All right, so we'll talk about that just a little bit, because term limits are like gasoline in your tank. They will keep you fresh and keep you moving and keep you going forward. So fund development, 2 key words to know. Fundraising, that dreaded term, the raising of assets and resources from various sources so that we have money to do what we want to do. Most people feel like the guy on the screen here. They don't like it. It feels uncomfortable. The second definition, development, is the process we go through as an organization to raise awareness. So each of us has a role, I believe, to have the community understand who we are, what we do, and why we require outside funding. Whether you are a council getting funding from a statewide entity or not, you still are doing some sort of awareness building and or fundraising. And development, raising awareness of who we are and what we do, is everyone's job. From the person who answers the phone to the person who, unlocks the door in the morning, and that might be you too. You might be all of these things, to the chair of the board or your best volunteer. So what exactly do you want board members to do? This is a key question I want you to answer in the Q&A box. And be specific here, not just show up more. What would you like? 80% attendance at all board meetings. 2 board members to help with fundraising. Be as specific as we can. And type that in so I can read a few of them out. It looks like a couple of you discuss term limits and monitor them, but board members can be reappointed. The good news is your bylaws are your friend, Elizabeth, so that's helpful. Elect annually, but most end up keeping the position due to lack of others stepping up. Okay. So some things that we want people on our board to do, or the board in general. Take responsibility for at least one project. Okay. Like how, Phyllis? Because that's a big thing. Responsibility as in filling seats for a performance, or let me say more about that. More involved in fundraising, Stacy. So what do you want them to do? Do you want them to sell tickets? Do you want them to give themselves? Do you want them to ask others? So be more specific. Jamie, you got, now I'm a broken record. I'm sorry. Be more specific. If you want me to communicate and participate, what do you want me to say? And where do you want me to participate? Is it just come to board meetings, or is it attend community functions? Is it invite others to come with me? Take the lead in major fundraising. Take the lead is tough. So Darren, if you have staff, it's really a staff function to take the lead. If you don't have staff, then that has to be an expectation that's clearly defined with the board and more discussion to happen at the board level. Elizabeth says, we ask board members to be a champion for at least one program, good, for deeper engagement. So grants, program vision, generating excitement, love it. Complete more asks for major donors, or connect and update staff on those donors. So our executive director, CEO, he's a really awesome guy, kind-hearted, gentle soul, really expects the best of everyone and gives his all. And I can't get him to make the calls that he needs to. He's an ex officio board member, and he is our president and CEO. So I made a little dashboard, and it shows how many donor calls he's made versus how many donor calls I've made. So as COO, I oversee fundraising as well. I'm at 17 and he's at 5, and that's in the last 2 weeks. So now he's starting to realize he has some catching up to do. So we're making it fun. He's competitive, and he said, I need to like dig in here. And so the question then is, what do you need to not do so you can do more of the thing that we have to do? Take ownership of the organization. So be more specific on that, Randall. How? Is it set some strategic goals? Is it understand their role better? Help with corporate asks. Okay, that works, Stacy. That's specific. So now what can you do to help me be that? Are there a short list of people that you want me to go visit with in the community, or just open the door so that you can go visit with them so they don't have to think through what the list is? And then I'm always a believer that if I'm not inviting my circle of friends to do something that I'm really passionate about, that means I'm not inspired to do it. So what can we be doing to inspire a door opening with my circle of friends and attending an event? Let's see if there's anything new in here. Be ready for change. That's good. That one takes some conversation. Be excited about what we're doing and share our story. So I have to be inspired by the story in order to share it. And then have a scorecard that shows me that I have to attend at least one of the partner events and show. I'll give you an example of a scorecard in a minute. Contribute financially. This should be in your board agreement. It can be give or get if you want. I prefer it to be give and get, but you get to decide. And then have a discussion at a board meeting around how do you want to measure your effectiveness as fundraisers for the organization? How many of you will be givers? How many of you will be getters? How many of you will be willing to sell memberships? So here are my 7 ways that board members can be involved in fund development: raising awareness, having people know why we require outside support, and they don't have to ask for money. First is pretty simple, and that is to make a personal financial gift. Bam, done. But that's a conversation that should happen in recruitment, should happen at once a year at the board meeting, and the fund development chair or the board chair makes the ask at the board meeting and says, this is the meeting, we are talking about our gifts. If you would like to make your gift today, I've emailed you, because we're virtual, right? I've emailed you your pledge form and or the link to make your gift online. Once we've gone through a week or so, I'll follow up with each of you, or 3 or 4 of us will be following up with each of you to make sure we have a one-on-one conversation about your gift if we didn't hear from you by then. And we'll talk about what your gift impact is and support you in giving to the organization. The second is to invite others to give something: time, talent, advice, not necessarily money. If you're not good at fundraising, I don't want you to do it. If it's uncomfortable for you, I absolutely don't want you to do it. We have to be good at the thing. So it might be being a greeter. It might be telling a story, and the same story over and over again. It might be our own story. But to be talking to others and then count, how many times am I doing that? Act as an ambassador and an advocate, but like really do that. So when you have an event on Zoom, my job would be to look for someone who's pre-registered and go do a one-on-one chat with them to say, Kellen, thank you for being here. I am on the board and I am so thrilled. I was assigned to greet you and welcome you. We know that you've been a supporter of, Sioux Falls Jazz, whatever it is, for many years. Thank you. That kind of interaction can happen once again when we can be in person, but have me have an active role. That takes some organization, whether you have staff or whether this is all volunteer leadership. Assign me to a person or two that is my responsibility to connect with, either at an event or in between events. Number 4 is to thank recent happy donors. So this is about speed. The reason I say that, thanking donors is always surprising, especially if you call them. I prefer to have voicemail messages left. And the research shows that phones are being used for the reason they were invented in the first place a lot more since the pandemic started. And organizations that have made the effort to call their donors are seeing some pretty incredible results, the one I'm working with included. So one of the reasons to call quickly is if a board member calls very quickly, the next gift changes drastically. And I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But what we're looking to do is to have donor retention that is above the national average. So on the national average, it's somewhere between 45-ish, 47, maybe 48 on a good year, but it's not great. It's below 50. If I give more than once in a year, it's around 60%. 60 to 80% is a big range, but I say a healthy organization has overall donor retention in that range, 60 to 80%. Notice that if I give monthly, your donor retention is nice and strong and solid. First time donor retention is really low. That means 20% of the people stick around after their first gift. That's it. But the magic is when a non-staff person, which is easy for some of you because you don't have staff, when a non-staff person makes a call to a first-time donor, their second gift is up to 40% higher. And the really great news is 2 years later, 70% of those people who got phone calls are still giving. So you're affecting the donor retention in the current year, but also in subsequent years, and you're increasing gift size. We have made, mostly myself, because this just wasn't happening before, I joined this organization in June of last year. My first day was May 27th or something. So it took me about a week and a half or so to get in database, start digging around. Between June 15th and December, I made 900 phone calls, myself and the executive director. We only have 350 active donors. So that means we talk to some people multiple times. We talk to people that aren't giving yet. Our donor retention has increased in 6 months from 35% to last week we hit 50%. And the only thing we've been doing is making phone calls and thanking people, pretty regularly, and then asking. We made one ask last fall. So build a system for how you can have loyalty just like roll off of people, and they're sticking around because you know who they are, they know you know who they are, and they feel appreciated. The month of February is a great time to call your donors. Call it Donor Love Month. And you can do it for a whole week, the month, next week if you wanted to, for Valentine's Day. But just say, we don't want you to give us anything. We want to give you the recognition and the appreciation. The fifth way to really engage in an organization is to share a story about one person that paints a picture of my impact. So when I invest $5, what happens? When I invest $50,000, what happens? When I buy a ticket for an event, what happens? These are what I call mission moments. They're short, inspirational examples of how your mission is unfolding, but it's through the eyes of one person. What does it feel like to be a Moon Daiko drummer? What does it feel like to perform in a physically taxing performance? And what does it feel like to be living your heritage live in front of people? Have that story told and collect it on video in a 90-second snippet so it can be shared regularly in different places. Mission moments create unforgettable emotional connections that allow people to feel empathy for your organization, and they allow people to see themselves in the work you're doing. They allow people to remember why they gave in the first place. And right now, your mission, as I said earlier, it is as important as it's ever been. In fact, maybe more important because of what value you're making possible in your community. All right, so I'm going to tell you a quick story, and the link on here is a bit.ly link. That means it is case sensitive. You have to do the bit.ly/ and then a capital B, but it says board members powerful storytelling. Watch this video another day. This is from a few years ago. I actually had black hair, so don't laugh when you see it. But it is a story about an organization in New Orleans. Jim is the CEO, and he really engaged his board in having one person that they had met from the community of folks that they walk alongside. And then their job was to come back and talk to the board about that person. But when it came time to go visit a funder, and Jim asked for a board representative, 3 board members were adamant that they all had to tell their story. And the end result is pretty magical. I'm not going to spoil the end result for you here. Watch the video. This is what can happen at your organization. Making sure that your board members have something to talk about that inspires them, then can inspire other people to do big things for your organization. Supporters want to feel their impact. They want to know what they're making happen. And I was reminded of this today. I made a call to someone who is a donor prospect. She is a billionaire. She has never given to this organization. She has never been asked. I asked her the question, what would it take, Melissa, to inspire you to make a gift, financial gift to the organization? She said, I don't think it's going to take much. I really love the organization. But she didn't say, I'm ready to do that today. She said, I like to know stories about the people whose lives are different because of the work that we're doing. So I'll listen for those. And when I'm inspired, I'll let you know. So, you know, between now and like Monday, I'm all over that. I will find some stories to begin to share with our community of donor prospects, as well as people who've been giving, to say, here's what you're making possible. So making sure that a mission moment inspires me, I want to have you practice a little bit before I tell you tools number 6 and 7 for board members to participate in. So I'd like to have you type in what I would call a mission moment. So those mission moments are something, a quick example from the eyes of someone like an artist, a volunteer, a longtime donor, yourself, and some way that your work or what you support in the world of arts has made a difference for someone else. I don't need a whole long story. I just want to know a little bit. So include a name, a first name. This could be Muriel on the screen here. And Muriel's, you know, telling about how much she loved going to the opening of her grandchildren's art showing. And, you know, it made her realize that the painting that she allows them to do at her house makes a difference. And she herself has always been a bit of an artist, and she just loves being around young people. No, I'm making up the story, but I want to hear just a little tiny bit from each of you And there are a number of you on right now. So I want to know, what is your mission moment? I want to read one or two of them, and it'll take, I know, a bit to type it in. So Milk Perfect, grandparent being so excited to see their grandchild dancing on stage. So how that might turn into a mission moment is in your e-news. The subject line might be Grandma Lori had a smile as wide as her face yesterday. Now I would open that email because I'd want to know why she did. And now you get to say, at the blank event, even though it was on Zoom and socially distant, we could see that Grandma Lori was watching her grandson or grandchild, Evan, perform at home. And we know it brought her joy. She has not been able to be out of her house for the last 9 months or year, or whatever it is. Anne says, our mission moment happens every second Tuesday. All right, I'm excited. Artists and authors get to have an audience for their passion. Audiences that they would almost never reach. So then, and what we would want to have happen is take a screenshot of that. If you're doing it on Zoom or some sort of webcam, post it on social media. Tell us about it in your appeal letters. Share those regularly with folks who might not attend those live moments. Garden Glow at McCrory Gardens brings light to all generations in 2020. So Garden Glow has to have had people at it, because I want to know the name of a person. A mission moment has to be about a person and what they felt. Was it magical to see all the lights or to see children running up and down? So my daughter-in-law just sent a video just before we started here today. My granddaughter's name is Sullivan Rose, and Sully, we call her, wouldn't go to bed last night. She had her jammies on and she was sitting at the dining room table and she's doing some art, and she was sticking things on with too much glue, and she had stuff stuck all over her, and they were saying, Sully, it's time for bed. No, I need to make more art. That's a video I would send out. Here is what you make possible. Children who are so inspired to do something that they don't want to go to bed at night. Phyllis says, parents that decided to frame and give kids artwork as a Christmas present after a program, framed the children's work and showed it at the county fair. So collect a couple of those stories, send them to donors, have them know that's what they're helping fund. The family of Kenzie, a person with disability who has participated in our theater program, said that they became more confident in Kenzie's ability to be independent because of communication skills that she gained through our program. So much so that Kenzie is now living independently. Wow, Linda. That's a story to share all over the place. And what did it take to support financially the program or programs that Kenzie got to participate in? Adult students being so appreciative of the opportunity to learn a new hands-on art or craft that they never saw themselves involved in doing. My mom is one of those. My mom lives in a senior care center in Minneapolis, and my mom has never participated in art, and she is now a painter. And she gets so excited when her work gets posted on Facebook, and texts all of the kids and grandkids to go like it, so she knows that her art has been seen. Those are ways, those are stories to tell, but share them. Those are little tiny snippets. I love that so many of you had a mission moment. All right, number 6, a way that board members can support and other volunteers can support fund development and not have to ask for money is to talk about money and explain how contributions make a difference for one person. We leave money on the table if we are not talking about the money and what it takes. Notice not what it costs, what it takes to do our work. So here we are on the left side, and here's where we need to be. Here's where we have to go on the right side. But in the middle is that gap. This was an image created by Upstream Arts in Minneapolis when they announced the term funding gap. And they did this a couple of years back. Their annual income from their revenue stream from individual donors at the time they launched this visual was $23,000 a year from individuals. They now raise over $100,000 a year pretty effortlessly from individual donors. And they've found lots of partnerships with other entities, institutional funders, some tax dollars, some grants. The thing is, we have to be clear about what our money story is. And their graphic at Upstream Arts makes it really clear, right? Here's where we are, and here's where we want to be, and here's what it'll take to get there. So show how you help one person. Is it Kenzie? Is it that grandparent? Is it someone, running through the gardens with all of the glory of the colors and the, whatever it is? Make sure to show progress to your next milestone on where you're at, closing that gap. So if you have to raise $40,000 this year, divide it out into 4 quarters so we know where you're at, and you update us regularly. Inform us about what it takes, not what we need. You don't need anything. Your work requires certain levels of funding so that your community can be served in the way they expect and in the way they deserve. And then the last is, when you're sharing a clear money story, it has to be inspiring, specific, and it allows a relationship building moment. So think about what kind of information that is listed on the screen there for you do you share with your board for sure, and others outside of your inner circle. My guess is you've got some volume turning up to do that would have us better understand what your money story is. All right, so the way to remember this is you exist for a specific reason. There's something missing in your community that your organization creates, makes possible. Your money story is the difference between where you are today and where you have to be to fully fund your mission this year. And there's a one-person example that will bring this to life. So we have to understand it from the top down, but we talk about it from the bottom up. And the last area of task or work we can do to affect the bottom line is to create a culture of accountability. Really simply, that is being held responsible for our actions and then holding others responsible. So if we said we want 80% attendance at all board meetings, whether they're virtual or they're in person, then I have to take responsibility too, to say, all right, hey, Terry, you weren't there. What can we do to support you? Can I pick you up next time? Or do you want me to text you the link for Zoom? Is it hard, to find in your emails? What can we do to support you? Your voice is important. Accountability is part of the structure to success. And accountability is based on communication. The 2 most important ingredients are having clear expectations, so that board agreement, those conversations before I become a board member about what we're looking for, and then monitoring the performance. This is where we fall down. We say the things we want you to do, but we don't have any way to measure our performance. So we don't have a way to come back to Lori and say, you've missed 4 board meetings. I'm sorry, but we're going to have a conversation. Either we've got to have 100% attendance going forward, or let's find a different place for you in the organization. Okay, so I want to read Rose's mission moment here. A man named Larry utilizes a wheelchair and has severe disabilities, making him nonverbal. His brother came to 75% of our season of free concerts. His brother communicated that they would drive a half an hour to our concerts, and we're so happy to be there because they both share a love of music. There was easy ADA parking, and that this was a free event that they could enjoy without barriers. Okay, that's a beautiful story. I need to know then, what did it take to bring those free concerts to the community? When I support your organization, Rose, I'm making magic like that happen for Larry and his brother. Great mission moment. Okay, how do we share those expectations? Make sure I know. We have a board agreement because we've already designed that by a previous group of board members, or we're going to design that this year. Use one of mine or use both of mine as samples, but create your own. Talk about what we're going to measure. When we measure, we can actually start to move it around. We can build deeper effectiveness and engagement. So here's an example from an organization that I've worked with for a long time. They have a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper folded in half that gets tucked into board meeting minutes when it's in person. It's emailed to the person when it's not. And it is on the back, it lists the legacy that the Fund Development Committee has created. And it's a very simple language. We are a team, this is the Fund Development Committee, is a team that sustains the fundraising model that we use. We communicate the return on investment to our donors. And our outcome is that we generate sustainable funding through lifelong donors. This is an organization that has gone from having 3 donors give at $1,000 or above when I first started working with them to 590 donors giving at $1,000 and above in Shreveport, Louisiana. And they give at levels of 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 25,000. And they are continuing to come back year after year after year. Inside on the left, it says the activities that the board has agreed on and the Fund Development Committee has agreed on. And then on the right, it tells what the goal was that the person set at the beginning of their year. They actually do this in September. Their fiscal year starts on July 1. Their board kickoff meeting for the fall is in September. So all committee members and board members fill one of these out. And on the left is what the staff or the volunteer who's managing this has noted. And oftentimes when board members and committee members get this report card, this scorecard, they'll say, wait a minute, I invited people to a tour, I just forgot to tell you. So it trues up the numbers. This takes a little bit of time. It is not something that has a lot of staff involvement. It's mostly board members helping board members understand what it is we said we would do and how are we doing that. So being clear about our expectations, and then what are the expectations and quote unquote consequences if we don't do that, or if we do that. So if we have 100% attendance at our meetings, we have 100% phone calls made to all of our donors, we have the potential of having, increase of 15 to 20% in our donor retention, which equals this amount of money. And we have potential of being able to accomplish all of our strategic goals this year and moving on to new ones for next year. Provide clear and easy to follow direction. So ongoing training of your board. Use a little portion of each board meeting to learn something new. If you are spending more than 10 minutes talking about financials, you are not using your time effectively. You want to have your financials done, reviewed by a handful of people, and we just look at a balance sheet and ask maybe a question or two. The rest of the board meeting should be spent on a whole bunch of other things. And one of them is learning something. Maybe it's a story. Maybe it is some area that we want to do a deep dive in, like what is governance? How do we tell our story powerfully? Who is someone we could be talking about? What's our money story? And how do we talk about it? What in the heck is risk management? And why is it important? I will tell you, when I first joined a board back in my 20s, I didn't know how to read financials for a board meeting, and someone had to whisper to me how to do it. So teach us without having people feel silly and like they don't know what's going on. What are good board recruitment tactics? These are all topics you could cover in about 10 minutes and have a discussion about, before you move on to, are we selling enough tickets at the fundraising event? And what are some of the other items that you might cover in your agenda? We have the opportunity as the leadership of the organization, whether that's staff leadership or board leadership, to cause the rest of the board to feel like a superhero with the information that we're sharing. The best way to share information is by using a dashboard or some sort of visual display. Pictures work. Pictures make things much more clear. They help me understand details that I might not understand as easily, and they help me ask good questions. So one of the reasons to have dashboards or visual displays is that boring feeling that we have sometimes at the end of a meeting. I don't want people to leave thinking, well, that was a waste of my time, or that was 90 minutes of my time I'll never get back. A visual display is like the dashboard in your car. We know where to put some gas in. We know where to pull back on the brakes. We know that our engine is running well. And it should be a sort of at a glance review and not take a ton of time. So this is an example from the Blue Avocado, the folks at Blue Avocado, their website. And if you just Google the title of it, a nonprofit dashboard and signal light for boards, you'll find it. This is one of 7 or 8 different areas that are on their dashboard that they measure. Finance is one of them. Days of unrestricted cash, net surplus or deficit, government funding year to date. They also have things like program impact, board of directors, attendance, new board members recruited, fundraising. Really simple, easy to see. So the signal light part of this is red means, okay, stop, we got to talk about this. Yellow means, well, we got to pay attention to it, slow down a little bit. Let's chat a little bit about it, but are we on track? And then green means we are totally on track or we're ahead. Now, we all want board members to read the financials, but some of us, myself included, don't find them so interesting unless there's a picture. A little bit like Sullivan, my granddaughter. She likes pictures in her books. So this is the revenue, the actual to budget variance. Important numbers to know, but I don't really know what this graph means. And if I looked at the numbers, I'd have to just go through each box and go, okay, that month we did okay. Oh, that week we did okay. Okay, got it. Well, what if you make the budget 0 and then you plot the variance? And so we get to see the actual based on 0. Now, at a glance, I can know we had a problem in week 8 of last quarter. What happened? Now I have some questions I can ask, and it's much simpler for me to be effective and engaged. The next is to have a governance dashboard on what it is the board decided they want to measure about their own activities. So it could be attendance at committee meetings or board meetings. It could be event participation at some key events. 80% is what this organization said, and the red shows we didn't get there in those first 2 events of last year, or whatever year this was. Board gifts versus what's in the door, or board pledges, sorry, versus the gifts that are in the door. What other things, especially if you're a board member, what other things could we measure? Go ahead and type into the question and answer box. Very simple things. I don't like you to measure more than about 3 or 4, maybe 5. What are some things we could be measuring of our own activity as board members that wouldn't take too much work to gather the data? And even one of us as a board member could gather that data. Let's see what you're typing in. It takes a little bit for your typing to get to me. It's amazing that it gets to me as quick as it does. Volunteer hours, excellent. What else? We got 2 volunteer hours, two brilliant minds thinking alike. Events attended, yep. And have a decision, a conversation in a board meeting about what would be an acceptable level of attendance. If you've got 20 meetings or 20 events all year long, I might not get to go to all of them, but are we saying that we should have board member representation at half of those, or that all of us should pick 2, or whatever it's going to look like? Have there be some conversation. Board communication with donors and sponsors. Yes. Track how many calls board members are making, or how many sponsor thank you visits they're making, or how many sponsors they're securing. Again, shine a spotlight on what's working. That's what the governance scorecard is about. And notice there's no names here. The names are on another tab that nobody sees. This is all they see, and they can say, who didn't make their gift? I made mine, or shoot, I forgot to make mine. All right, I've got just a couple more things, and then we're going to take a quiz and open it up for questions and some more chat. I believe there are 3 key fundraising chunks of data that we should look at quarterly at a minimum. The first is, how many donors do we have in each of our giving categories? And if that is the case, you want to decide, what are those giving categories? So is it $100 and below? Is it 100, maybe it's $200 and below, maybe it's, I don't know, but these are less than 100 to $499, 500 to $999, 1,000 to $9,999, and 10,000 and above. And this is from an arts organization in the Twin Cities. The data is a little bit, a couple of years old, but it is real data. Then, now that we know how many donors are in each of those categories, notice there's 805 donors in the less than 100 category and 15 in the 10,000 and above. And actually, it might be there aren't even that many in the 10,000 above. It might be just the 1,000 to 9,999. Now notice how much money comes in from each of those categories. And this then tells us where the revenue is coming from, and do we know those donors? If we don't, it's not a huge number of donors to be paying attention to. That there are 214 donors at the top 3 giving levels. That's, a handful of donors per person, per lead volunteer. There's $800,000 though coming from those top 3 levels. We want to retain that. We want to increase that. And remember, my second gift is up to 40% higher when I get a phone call. So a quick story about that is, last summer when I started making calls, I called someone who makes $25 a month contributions. Her name is Cynthia. She lives in Washington, D.C. She is a minister and she is retired. And so we chatted for a while. We had a lovely conversation. The next month, she added $50 to her monthly contribution. We invited her to what I'm calling a vision for the future, little Zoom experiences with 3 to 4 donors at a time to tell them about our campaign that we're launching and where we're headed, and some background information. It's like an insider's update. 3 to 4 donors per week. We don't do a ton. Well, she got invited to one of those. She increased her gift after one of those meetings to $500 a month. And then at year end, she made a large gift of $6,000, but she continues to make her monthly gifts. All of that stemmed from one phone call where we had a nice conversation. And now she's had some other people talk with her. Our president and CEO has called her. She's met a board member. She feels engaged, and it probably took a total of an hour and 15 minutes spread over 3 people. The third chart that I like to have you take a look at in donor data is your retention and acquisition side by side. You want your retention and acquisition to be kind of close together. That is a stable organization, but we want it to be over 50%. So the blue is retention. This organization had a trend that wasn't good. They were starting to lose more donors than they were gaining. So then it feels like you're on that hamster wheel. We want it to be in the 50, 60, 70% retention. and 50 to 60% of those can be new. That's just fine. But I want to make sure that we're always bringing some new folks in and we're having a high level of retention. All right, so those are your tools. That's a lot. My motto for working with boards in the nonprofit sector is this. It is 100% staff responsibility for board members to be great. And it is 100% board responsibility to do what we said we would do. When all else fails, we just pull the plug on and uninvite someone from something, whether it be a committee or the board. And that means having conversations that, especially in the Midwest, we don't like to have. We like to be very nice and kind, but it's important to tell the truth about our effectiveness and about each person's effectiveness. All right, so this is going to go kind of quickly. We're going to take a pop quiz. There's no quiz to type in here. You're just going to type like number sign and 1 and then a yes or no, number sign 2 and a yes or no. So here we go. Question number 1, we regularly tell our board compelling stories about a single person impacted by our mission. Type in number 1, yes, we do that, or no, we do not. I will watch these roll on in. We got some no's. We got a couple of yeses. Yay. I like the yeses. A couple of yeses. Let's get some more answers here. No, no, we do not. No, no. All right. Ready for question number 2. Question number 2 is all board members and staff leadership, especially if we do not have staff and we're all volunteer, know and share our money story, where we are today and where we must be to fully fund the mission this year. Number sign 2 and yes or no. Number 2, Rose, high 5. Got a yes there. Otherwise, we got a no. Darren, high 5. We got a yes. Yes, yes, and a lot of no's. All right, question number 3. 100% of our board members make an annual financial gift in addition to attending event at one of our fundraising events. So buying a ticket to an event is not, in my opinion, making a gift in support of the organization. That is separate. So number 3, yes or no? No, no, we got some yeses. All right, good. Okay, we're about 50-50 there. Yay, Linda, I got an exclamation point on that one. Yes, good. Much better, more yeses on that one. Question number 4, we provide our board members with quality visual displays and data so they easily and successfully assist with fund development efforts. Yes or no? So number sign 4, yes or no? We've got some no's, no's, no's. We try, all right, so we got some work to do on this one. Number 4 is where we can do some growth, right? Question number 5, our board and staff know they're expected to assist with fund development. I didn't say they do, but we're clear about it in the interview process. We're clear about it in all of the discussions that we have with both staff and board. Number sign 5, what do we got here? Yes, yes, yes. We talk about it with most, so we don't have too many no's there. Doesn't mean they're doing it. I got it. So our last question, question number 6, our board signs an annual agreement that clearly outlines expectations. Number sign 6, yes or no? Yes, yes. Ooh, we got some no's here. A lot of no's. So borrow the, it's a swipe file. Borrow the 2 agreements and make them your own. Have some fun discussion and make it fun to have one. All right, so I want to know what your feedback is. Type in, what do you see about your answers? What is it that you're excited about your answers? What is it about your answers that has you thinking, we got some work to do. So go ahead and type in, and we're going to do some wrap up, another couple questions in wrap up in a moment here. And actually, maybe this will help you with your wrap up. So what did you learn, and how will you use what you learned? Added a new board member, so point on board member orientation really hit home. Good. What else? What other feedback? What'd you learn? How are you going to use what you learned? What'd you see about the pop quiz and having you realize we've got some communication things that we could do differently? Plenty of room to improve our board informational material and communications. Great. Have a lot of work ahead of us. Excited to start using some of these techniques. Great. So much work to do. So just pick one thing, Terry. Really, that's the thing. Start with one. Don't let yourself do more than one at a time. And that's why, you've got a lot of work to do day to day, all of you. Find a partner that's willing to let that conversation not die, even though you've got a lot on your plates. The tools are amazing. We'll use them. Staff needs to do some work in more effectively engaging our board. Good. Our board is filled with program folks that want nothing to do with money. So really start talking about what the money makes possible. Here's the thing about fundraising. It's not about finding more money. It's about talking about what money makes possible at our organization. That is fundraising. And I don't have to ask. I just have to know that answer. Like the suggestions on how to inspire board members and make meetings more interesting and valuable. Great opportunities exist when we tell our story. Don't be shy, sharing work and value. Not all boards have the same responsibilities. It's true. So what are yours? How do we make sure that we're providing exactly what our board needs that are really fitting our criteria of what needs to happen? What are our top 3 things? Get to know my board better and find ways to engage them. Board Development Committee and staff will review some of these tools and choose some implementation goals for the year. Great. Always have done handwritten thank yous for contributions from your presentation. I would do both. Always, we do a receipt. If it's a larger gift, like $1,000, we do a handwritten note from our CEO, and then someone calls everyone. And if it's a large gift, that's when we get our CEO involved or a board member, because right now our board isn't functioning in that way. But the goal would be to have our board be making most of those calls in soon. All right, I'm going to continue to hold on. I got to share my screen again in just a moment. My little button, my mouse went to the wrong screen. So when it does that, I have to make sure to share the right screen. All right, let's go back to our slides. And while we're doing that, when is your next board meeting? Tell me that. Type that into the question box, because that lets me know how much time you have to really have some conversations that are important. And it'll remind you, hopefully, to just do one thing, take on one aspect before the next board meeting, even if it's to have someone tell a story, tell a quick story. All right, let's go back to sharing my screen now that we've got the right one up. When is your next board meeting? May, March. Okay. Second Monday, 5:30, Sunday afternoon. All right, John, what are you going to do on Sunday that's different? February 26th. Milt, what are you going to do that's different at your next board meeting? Last night. Good. Well, so Terry, you've got some time. Let's see. Where did I go? I went to the wrong. Well, the last couple of slides, let me just have Andrew take me off, stop sharing. And I'll just tell you what was on there so you don't have to think about it. Really, the main thing is, if you've got questions, now is your time to type them in, because we've got time to do a little more answering of questions, but also to remind you that greatness is a function of circumstance, or that's what we think it is. Greatness is not a function of circumstance. It turns out that greatness is largely a matter of conscious choice and discipline. It's from the Good to Great monograph that is about 32 pages long, written by Jim Collins. We get to decide where we focus our time, We get to decide what we put our attention to. If our programs are taking a lot of our time, what could you have as a picture from what you're doing sent out to the board? Who could you have help you if there was something that you needed or wanted to have more people know more about? Assign tasks to other people so you're not feeling overwhelmed, but truly, of all the resources that we talked about, just pick one. Because you do not want to be having overwhelm at the board level as well as yourselves. So with that, I'm going to say, let's, we don't have to share the slides, but I'd like to see if there's any other questions that folks have, any other feedback. We've got a little bit more time, or you get some time back in your day that you didn't think you might have. Any thoughts, questions, comments? And Andrew, dive in here. Jim, dive in here. What do you got? Burning questions, moments of aha.
I really enjoyed the number of the dashboard aspects. You know, we've been trying to be as visual as possible with our fundraising data, but hadn't really thought of the sort of gamification approach. You know, and some board members aren't motivated by that competition, but boy, some people that are really are, and that really motivates them. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see a lot of those examples. And just kind of that general dashboard of attendance and some of that kind of a thing, just so that the board can really see where they're sitting.
Well, and to have them know that we're all in this together, right? It's not just one person's, and we all make an impact collectively. Jim, anything new that you saw that you don't use? Or I'm imagining you've got, like, you know, because I know you've got people appointed and that you've got a pretty stellar board.
Yeah, we do, Lori. We have an exceptional board, but we have much work to do in regards to what you presented today. You know, one of the things that's challenging for our board is that we meet quarterly. So, you know, sometimes it takes a little longer to make those changes in process or training. But this has been an exceptional session for us at Art South Dakota. We're a young organization, so you know, I think this has been something we've maybe neglected and haven't worked on as much as we should have over the last couple of years.
You know, one of the ways to utilize some of these tools is in your committee structure, because then that will bubble up to the board as a whole. But if your, you know, if your committees are starting to measure their effectiveness, if they're starting to measure their attendance or their understanding of what their role is, you don't necessarily have to start at the whole board level. You can start within each committee and implement some of these things too. All right, I don't see any other questions. Oh, it is always better to try to get people to monthly giving? Yes. We have some people, just so you know, the organization I'm at, they send a check for $10 every month, and it's fabulous. It's kind. But the people who give by credit card or debit card, the retention rate is much higher. And we do love Jim's dog in the background. What is your dog's name?
Oh, yeah, that was Nika. She comes down the steps every once in a while, sits on the chair, waits for a treat. So,
and Andrew's got a dog in his background, but not right now. So I just don't have a pet. Otherwise, I would have brought them up. There's Nika.
There's Nika. Usually it's Andrew's dog that we see. Fritz is always in every webinar, every team meeting, every board meeting. He's kind of he's the team dog.
Well, you know, one thing I saw in an article I was reading yesterday is a dad was holding his newborn baby at, you know, the Zoom meeting, and it kind of humanizes us all, right? It just, the baby was sleeping, but didn't want to be put down, and dad needed to be in the meeting. So he was doing what he needed to do, and kind of reminds us we've all got different kinds of challenges. It evens out the playing field just a little bit.
Right. absolutely. Yeah. Um, One of the things I was just going to highlight, hopefully maybe some other questions will come in here, but I think you made this point, and it I've seen this on several boards I've been on, but now even with our board at Art South Dakota, one of the things we sometimes so easily forget is that the board training and getting new board members up to speed, right? Because you have a board of 15 or 20 or whatever your number is, and you have two new people join, and it's easy to just think, oh, they know everything already. They understand our organization. They remembered all the stories we talked about over the last 2 years, all the the challenges we've had or the successes we have, and you kind of forget, no, these folks are, this is all brand new. So that institutional memory isn't there, and it's so easy to count on that.
Yes.
And then you kind of start to lose that camaraderie or that shared knowledge.
Well, and that's when I tune out. If I don't feel like, I'm in the inner circle because I don't know, that whole backstory. It's why I like the board buddy idea.
Yeah.
Then someone can translate for me, at least for my first, few months, or even my first year. Well, if there are no other questions, I know that your plates are full, all of you. Board diversity. Yeah, it is the most important question I think we're all wrestling with these days. And I would tell the truth. I would, just as I like to say, your money story should be present whenever you're speaking to the public. So, Jim, if you were speaking tonight, you might say it takes blank dollars to fully fund the art mission in the state of South Dakota. It's a lot of dollars, and it comes from different sources, and it takes a diverse board. And so we're looking at how do we identify more players from different age groups, different ethnicities, talking about it regularly. We have one person of color on staff here at Monroe, and we have 2 trainers of color. Got a lot of work to do. No one on our board is of color. All, upper age group and white. So we're wrestling with how do we do that? And we're inviting people to come in and talk to us and say why they would want to serve on our board or not, why they would want to work here or not, why they have been trainers for us or not. It will take time, but it's got to be a conversation that the volume gets turned way up on. With as much scanning going on, anyone I know only answers their phone. Phone call is as powerful when it's not answered as it is. I will tell you, I leave messages about 90% of the time, and I get calls back about 50% of the time. Because people are so shocked that they weren't asked for money and they were just being thanked. They call back to thank me for the thank you call. All right, so I'm going to leave you all. Have an awesome rest of your day. Please stay warm. Go forth and multiply your engaged board as best you can. And a really big thank you to Jim and Andrew and Art South Dakota. I just love you guys.
Lori, thank you. And Sherry, who's not on the screen here, Sherry Cosell, she's online. She's one of the attendees, so we thank her as well for
we did a little bit of chatting earlier.
Perfect.
That's great. Thank you so much, Lori, and thanks again to everyone for joining. We'll have this recording and the slides sent out to you probably within a day once everything processes, so you can go back and reference some of the slides you may have missed earlier. And then also, I'll have some links from the slides in that email, and in the chat, I am now going to drop a link to the Governor's Awards in the Arts that will debut tonight at 5 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Mountain. So we thank you again all so much for the wonderful work you're doing all around the state and for taking the time to be with us today. And we're really excited that we can all be here learning together, and wishing you all a chilly but wonderful Wednesday. So thanks again to everybody.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.